What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video, gonna be a pretty frustrating one here. We're gonna hop back into Yankee universe. We're gonna recap the Yankees-Angels series from earlier this week, and really not a lot of positives to talk about here. The Yankees get swept in a really big series for another team in the wild card push, another team that has great pieces to sell the Yankees could have potentially acquired, but putting them in a tough spot now. We'll talk about all that. We'll break down the games. We'll talk key takeaways, what's up, Doc, and who's on deck. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, as well as subscribe if you guys are new to not miss out on any Yankees content coming throughout the rest of the season and in the future. So, as you always should, we'll start with game number 1. The Angels end up taking this game by a score of 4-3. Luis Severino has a great bounce-back start. Maybe not great, but a good bounce-back. Give the Yankees a solid 6 hits, 1 run, 3 Ks. And still question marks here for Michael King. He ends up giving up 2 earned here, and came on the bat of a Shohei Ohtani home run. Questionable decision to pitch to him after intentionally walking him, allowing him to tie up the game and just sort of not being as careful as you needed to. And Aaron Boone just sort of made some difficult decisions here in this game that just didn't end up playing out. But at the end of the day, the Yankees just really weren't able to convert, and sometimes that's how it goes, and it's just unfortunate we couldn't pick up this win, even though we had an early 3-1 lead. Another shining point here for the Yankees, or maybe one of the only shining points outside of Sevy, is Oswald Peraza. He plays well in this game, continuing to see his impact overall throughout the next few weeks. Moving on to game number 2, the Angels win this one by a score of 5-1. Domingo, not the best start for him. He ends up going 4 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, 9 Ks, so the stuff was still there. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. When Sandoval was pitching really well for their team, he went 7 1/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 7 Ks, and really not going to highlight too much from this game overall, but 2 hits, man. I mean, that's just not going to beat anybody. And this offense just really continues to struggle overall against everybody, every few games. And it's really tough to win that way. Moving on to game number 3, the Angels end up sweeping the Yankees and completing the sweep by a score of 7-3 yesterday afternoon. Carlos Rodon, he really just is not feeling like himself right now. He has another pretty poor outing. He goes 4.1, 4 hits, 6 runs, 5 walks. The walks have really been a struggle for him. 3 Ks. He gave up 2 home runs. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a little bit here, but Ian Hamilton, he struggles in this game as well. He surrenders 3 walks, something pretty uncharacteristic. He throws a ton of strikes, and his stuff's really dynamic, but I think he had a couple of full count walks, and just really difficult. But at the end of the day, the Yankees only scored 3, and 2 of them came off solo shots. So just not really generating that offense. And when we get guys on base, I think we had 7-8 hits in this game that we just ultimately just aren't able to convert. And that's what good teams do. And right now, we're just not a good team. Talking overall, the Yankees have now lost 9 of 11, and they have no series wins in July. So yeah, that's bad. Moving on to key takeaways. The first one is that the offense continues to be anemic, and they set the franchise record for most strikeouts in a series at 42, which is absolutely absurd. That's 14 strikeouts a game as a team of the 27 outs. I mean, that's just really sad. The guys are not connecting. They're not seeing the ball well. Lots of strikeouts looking, I think, over this past series as well. But the offense has really continues to struggle, and this is a pretty eye-opening stat. The Yankees are 9-35 when scoring 3 runs or less in a game. 3 runs or less, that's a quality start, guys. I mean, this offense, particularly any offense in baseball that is projected to be a good one, has to be able to score at least 3 runs or more. When they're not able to, pretty poor percentage. It's just a reality of probably is Garrett Cole on the mound and he's able to be dominant, or is the bullpen able to hold them at 2 and you win 3-2? I mean, some changes need to happen here. Going to have to obviously give Sean Casey a little bit of time. It's not going to happen overnight with him, but something has to change, whether it's the pieces or whether it's the mentality. Something has to change, plain and simple. Moving on to our second key takeaway, Carlos Rodon continues to struggle again in his third start coming off of the IL. And I don't really want to bring up too many stats just because, he's only thrown 3 times and had some pretty interesting injuries, so I'm sure he's still getting comfortable. But just wanted to talk generally about where I see some of these problems coming for him. He's only a 2-pitch pitcher. And yes, he does have a changeup. He has other pitches that he does throw, but consistently he is a fastball slider pitcher, and they play off each other pretty well, for his credit. But right now, one of those 2 pitches is not working, and it's the slider. And that puts him in a really difficult position because then he's just throwing the fastball. And overall, it's just his command has not been great. Tons of walks, like I'd mentioned. He had 5 walks in this past outing, and over the last 2 outings as well, prior to this start, that he just has trouble commanding the zone, or right now at least. And this is really tough because then you're working from behind. You have to throw strikes, and if the slider is not, good, then you have to go to the fastball to fill up the zone, and it's getting hit pretty hard. So that's partially why we see some of the home runs as well. But he definitely has some work to do. He knows it. He had an interesting response coming off the field yesterday with blowing the kiss. Not going to talk too much about it, but clearly he's frustrated. I know he's a competitor, and it'll be interesting to see, how he looks his next time on the bump, because time is ultimately running out if this team is able to make a push. The next key takeaway we'll talk about is Luis Severino. Big bounce back start for him in game number 1. Ends up going 6 strong, only 1 run, 3 Ks. His velocity was way back up. I think he was topping out at 199 points, and that his stuff played well. Only 3 strikeouts, but at the same time, only allowing 1, and really settling in, I think, against a pretty good Angels offense. They're obviously missing a few pieces, but at the same time, being able to work through a lineup like that, based off his last few starts, was really promising, and he's a massive piece for this team, because if the rotation is shored up, yes, the offense has had its struggles, but if we're able to be dominant from a pitching standpoint, that allows us the opportunity to be able to win a few of those closer games, and which isn't happening right now. I obviously understand that, but we just need Sevy to get back to his old self. And finally, my last key takeaway from the series is that the last 2 series sort of indicate that we're going to be selling in the next few weeks, and I'd mentioned about it in my All-Star break video. I forget exactly what I called it, but these next few series were really important to us in terms of the direction that our team would go, and ultimately our October outlook, like I had mentioned in that slide. But losing 5 of 6 to the Rockies and the A's can't happen for a team that's trying to compete for anything, for a playoff spot, for a championship, for a division. And it puts the Yankees in a really tough spot. Talking about their overall record, they are 50-47. They're 9 games back in the division, 3.5 games back in the wild card. I mean, it's starting to get to a position where if we're not going to be sweeping teams, like we have to win almost every series. Like that is critical for us. Right now, we're going to Kansas City, and we're going to have to smoke them. We're going to have to absolutely smoke them. And, we'll talk a little bit about who's on deck, but the Yankees really need to make change right now in this next series. Next 2 series, next 3 series are critically important to this team, just like the last 2 were. But right now, indications are that we're selling, and we'll talk about that maybe in the next video. Sort of not enough time in this one here, but the direction is just really not good, and I just personally don't think Aaron Boone is doing enough to inspire this team to go out there and pick up some tough wins, because they seemingly keep losing every game in extra innings, so potentially sellers. Moving on to What's Up, Doc. We'll talk about Aaron Judge. He's caught running the bases in LA. A massive step. He had just sort of been doing jogging in the outfield, things like that. Now we're really getting a gauge for where he's at, running in the bases, and it's a massive step because obviously to play outfield, if that's ultimately where he'll play the rest of the season if he's healthy enough. We haven't seen him fielding quite yet, so I think that might be the next step here in the puzzle, how comfortable he is with that, but definitely another positive step visually in the right direction, and, he could be doing all this stuff down in the locker room, in the training room, so for us to be able to see it, I'm not sure if that's just because the team is playing so poorly, but I think it is a good optic, and ultimately we may see him back sooner than we may think. Moving on to Nestor Cortez. He's scheduled for a AAA rehab assignment on Sunday. Interestingly enough, he actually faced Aaron Judge in LA during a bullpen session, so good to see those guys working back and trying to put this team in a good spot to try and make anything happen, but still a little ways away again. Nestor won't be rejoining for about 3 weeks or so during the first week of August. I guess 2 weeks at the earliest, but we'll see how he fares in his start in AAA. And finally, we'll talk about Harrison Bader. Last night, he ends up getting hit by a pitch in the 6th inning. He exits the game with a posterior rib contusion. So what that is, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but rib contusion, obviously contusion is a bruise. So we'll have to see ultimately what that looks like. Ribs obviously can be very painful for guys, so I think it's most likely that he'll end up, on the 10-day, which is unfortunate that, Bader has been such a big contributor with the bat and in the field and continues to just sort of find himself on the list and have to work back is definitely frustrating for him and for fans, but we'll have to see with some updates in the next few videos and definitely in the next video once we know more about what the injury actually will entail. And finally, we'll talk about who's on deck. Next few series for the Yankees. First off, we have off today, Thursday the 20th. As I'm recording this morning. On Friday, we travel to Kansas City where we take on the Royals for 3. This is going to have to be a sweep, no ifs, ands, or buts. For anything to be accomplished this season, and I think the attitude adjustment starts now, and a team that we can absolutely kill if we're on. So that definitely needs to happen. After that, we'll travel home for 2 games against the Mets. And following that, again, have to at least split, potentially take 2. Could be necessary and important because after that, we will travel down to Baltimore for 3 games against the Orioles. And if you guys looked away for a second, the Orioles are now in first place in the division. Crazy, huh? Sort of the same thing that happened with the Yankees last year. Incredibly hot start, although we didn't give up the lead sort of this early into the summer. But the Orioles are in first place. They're the real deal. This is going to be a really tough series for us. And if we can win it, if we can play well over these next 3 series, maybe we're just in a position where we're sort of trading off assets, picking up some guys for next year, maybe making a push to win. But as it stands right now, no Shohei, no Soto, no major pitching upgrade, no, bullpen help. There's not much that can be done to help this team because we like this team, as a front office, and they're just not getting it done. And when you're in that position, there's really not much you can do. So some pretty crucial games here coming up for us on deck. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section on some of your takeaways from the series, the outlook for the rest of the season. Obviously, you guys just heard me sigh, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. It hurts to watch. I watch, every game that I possibly can, and just a lot of pain, man. I don't know how much longer I can keep watching this product, but that's going to do it for this video, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.